Okay, guys, we're going to do a little DV i.o.p. program for the Afr Enforcers, and I also input all the info for performance trends. We're going to take a look at those two tonight, and it's only for info, give the customer an idea of what they can expect. Okay, you can see all the different info that you have to input onto here, right? Port volume, valve size, valve stem, throat diameter, center line length, okay, bore diameter, exhaust port volume, exhaust valve size, throat diameter. Okay, you even have to go size of the radiuses because it calculates, thank you, it calculates the size of the ports as far as average. Okay. Input the flows. All right. The last three flows are the same because I forgot how to change to get rid of those lifts. So we'll just leave them as the same as 800. Okay, not a real apples to apples comparison, but we've already looked at this Dart 215 Chevy head on DV's i.o.p. program. So let's compare a 215 Dart Chevy stock to the worked up Afr Enforcer copy head. Okay, here's the raw numbers. All right. Let's take a look. We got to hit calculate. We're going to hit graph. Okay, and then we get our graph up. Now, the way it's set up is thin lines are the AFRs, thick lines are the Dart 215s. So, first thing you need to notice is there's a decent amount of extra flow from a smaller port. Okay, that's important. If we go back and check the Dart 215's exhaust, I'm willing to bet that also had a bigger port than these little Ford heads. Yeah, that's a 75cc exhaust port. That's a big exhaust port. Okay, so I know what's going to happen. Okay, we'll go back, compare two flow tests. Let's go per square inch, calculate, graph. Okay, thin lines are the Enforcers, thick lines are the Darts. Okay, the Dart actually has a good profile on the exhaust seats. I believe they use a radius, right? And that actually looks better than mine. Now take a look. As soon as we get to the 0.25D line, mine really start taking off on both, right? Compared to the Darts. So my valve job is competitive, but maybe not perfect in every way like my wife. Okay, velocity we should do well on because we have a smaller port. Okay, we have a smaller port with better flow. Okay, take a look at the thin lines for the Afr Enforcers. They go right off. They go right off the chart. According to this, I probably should have made that exhaust port a little bigger. Nah, that exhaust port's gonna rock. Okay, like I said the other day, I'll take a small, fast exhaust port any day, and that certainly gets it done. I mean, notice how much faster it is than the dart. Okay? My intake port is okay. It's not super fast because I needed to make it 205 to get some decent flow out of it, right? Mostly due to the size of the engine we're feeding. You know, it's a 393. Okay, this is a good graph. Port energy, right? That's how much foot-pounds of energy the air column per foot length of port will produce. Okay? So right in the mid-range, the darts actually beat me. But after 400 lift, mine crank. Almost 26. 26 is a really good number. And the exhaust, it goes from 8 to almost 14. So I got a lot of extra energy out of the exhaust. The exhaust, remember, the exhaust energy is what starts the next incoming column of fresh air and fuel through scavenging, right? So you want it to have a good amount of velocity and energy to literally drop the cylinder pressure into a deep vacuum to start the intake pulse. Okay, port energy density is a similar graph, but it takes out the part of the equation for the size of the port. So you can compare any two ports with the port energy density calculation. And in a lot of ways, that's a better way to do it. Okay? All right, now take a look at the red. No comparison, right? This says I'm getting 40, almost 40 out of that exhaust. That's completely banging. That's pro stock numbers right there. Okay? That's insane. And 24 and change on my intake, not bad. Okay, actual velocity is velocity at the seat. Okay, actual velocity at the seat is near 400. Okay, on the exhaust, and 380 and change on the intake. So they're moving. They're all relatively efficient. So that's good to see. And I don't have any swirl calculated in, so we can quit. Okay, let's go back to flow test 1. Now on here it has mean area 2.407. So 2.407. Let's put in our bore and stroke. Let me pause this and I'll do this for you. Okay, hopefully I put all that in there correctly, right? Came out to 392.9 cubic inch, so I think I got the bore and stroke correct. Mean port area, I took off the other chart. Compression ratio is 11.8, that came from the customer. Peak CFM is 304.1 at 700. The cam is actually 608, so that's close. All right, some of the important things on here. Best torque output, 571. Now that's assuming we have Torque Master spec cam on it. The cam that I have the specs for that I put into the other program is his old cam. He wants to get a Mike Jones cam, so we actually got the specs for the GT40P heads, and as far as I'm concerned, Mike absolutely hit the nail on the head with the cam. According to the specifications the customer gave him and my flow numbers, it should be perfect. Really a nice setup. I'm looking forward to getting that all together and going. Okay, cylinder head port area horsepower limitations 649. Okay, cylinder head airflow horsepower limitation 699. I think that's a little high, but DV says the 649 is easily attainable with a good cam and a good combination. That's doable. Torque per cubic inch 1.454, not bad. All right, torque per liter 88.7, that's good. Horse per cube 1.65. Horse per liter 100.65. Okay, now I don't remember. No, this doesn't take into consideration the intake manifold and stuff. It's using strictly the compression and the port area to calculate all this. All right, now let's take a look and see where the other program comes up. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this row. Estimated horsepower at 7,000. All right, torque 487. What did DV say? 571. Horsepower 649. What does DV say? 649. Okay. Some of the things on here I like it says volumetric efficiency. That gives you a good idea. But remember, this program doesn't know what kind of intake manifold we're putting on, doesn't know the size of the carburetor. It has some suggestions. Right? It says we should have a 223 cc port. Okay? And it's suggesting a 10-inch long runner. Now, I didn't measure those runners, but those runners on those that intake manifold were pretty long. I'm going to say they're probably about 7 on the longs and probably 5 on the shorts. So we're not too far from that estimate. I did have to guess a little bit on the cam, but most of the basic specs are correct. 0.608, 256 duration at 50 on the intake, 262. Now this is his old cam, a 108 lobe center, and I did have to guess at the intake center line and the exhaust center line to get a 108, but they're probably pretty close. In any case, it's pretty cool. You know what I think I can do too? I don't know if you guys can be on pause long enough for me to load it, but I actually have on this ancient computer. I have, come on, you can do it. There we go. There's a picture of Mom and Dad from a while ago. No, we're not worried about that. Let's put I will put the info on here, and we'll see how this old desktop dyno does. That'll be interesting to see. All right, just taking you off pause for a second so I don't. Okay, all the stuff finally loaded in. Okay, a couple of guesses on here, but coming together. Okay, all the info for the cam. Okay, let's see what we can do with this now. Come on. All right, finally got it up. Let's see how we did. Okay. Okay. DV's best torque was 571. Torque on here, 575. Flywheel. Okay. DV's horsepower, 649. 626 at 6,500. Okay. Volumetric efficiency, that's pretty good. 110, I like that. That looks good to me. Take a quick look at the curves. He's probably going to shift right around 7,000. That horsepower curve looks good. Right? And then you'll come down about 1,500 on the shift, right at your almost right on peak torque. That's going to work out nice, I think. All right, guys, just a couple things. BMEP. When I've built engines before where they're in the 220s, they run really, really well. FYI. FYI. All right. You know what? We're going to compare this one to... I think I got Mikey's Mustang in here. Let's do that. Okay. Got Mikey's little 306 up. And... okay. Too much thinking. Obviously, the 306 are the two low curves. Okay? And according to this, he was only making about 400 horsepower. Now remember, Mikey's Mustang, with Mikey in it, 11.0 1/4. This is going to be an 1/8 mile car. But if you take a look, you guys will be able to convert that pretty easily. He's got over 200 horsepower more. Okay, and if you go by peak torque, Mikey's Mustang almost hits 400 foot-pounds. This one's 550, more like 575 foot-pounds. I have a feeling it's going to run real well. Oh, you know another cool thing you can do with this program? It's an old program, but it's a pretty decent program. We can hit it with 150 shot and see what we got. Let me load that up. Okay, it got a little confusing looking at it with too many curves on there, but I am not the nitrous expert. But according to this, we're making almost 800. Yeah, let's go to, we can put this on, come on. We can do the graph or we can do the table and get our info. Obviously, you can't hit 150 horse shot at 1,000. Well, I guess you could, but you'll have over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. It'll probably just push the crank out the bottom of the block. It does kind of sound fun, though. All right, what do we got as far as horsepower? 791, and as far as torque, 736 at 4,500. They're right about. You know, his old cam is just about right for the RPM range that we're going to run. I'm sure if he goes to Mike Jones and has another cam made up, he'll get it even better than this. So, just an info type video tonight. Kind of interesting to see what the different programs show you. They're, you know, relatively close. It should be a good running engine. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out because God knows I don't have much of a life. Thanks a lot. Good night.